Welcome back to There Is No America Without Erica, and let's be honest, we all need a little Erica in our lives. So today I want to talk about the type of shooter, a generation of gun owners that most people don't even realize exist. They're the shooter who turned 18 something between 1986 and 2004. And whether they realized it or not, they lived through one of the biggest transitions in America's gun cult. I like to call them the analog bridge shooters because they're the bridge between two completely different gun worlds. On one side was a country where the Second Amendment was slowly being pushed into the corner, and on the other side is the world we're living in today, where many of those same restrictions are starting to fall apart. And if you turned 18 between 1986 and 2004, you did live through that transition. That generation grew up in a gun culture that barely exists anymore. And the crazy part is, most people didn't even notice it's changing. Back then, AR-15s were controversial, red dots were rare, AK-47 build kits were everywhere, and if you wanted to build a rifle at home, you actually needed real skills. And if you want to support the channel, the best way to do that right now is by shopping at OnlyTechnicalFans at myshopify.com. We've got shirts, gear, survival equipment, and a bunch of other stuff over there. And every single order helps keeps this channel going. So to everyone who has already supported us there, seriously, thank you so much. And it really does make a difference. And it helps us keep floating and being able to do what we do here. So thank you. From 1994 to 2004, the entire country lived under a federal magazine ban. 10 rounds, that was it. No 30-round magazines, no new standard capacity mags, and if you wanted one, you had to hunt down a pre-banned magazine and pay ridiculous prices for it. AR-15s themselves were also treated like some kind of taboo rifle, even inside the gun community. A lot of older shooters still preferred traditional hunting rifles and wood-stocked firearms. The AR wasn't yet what we think of today as America's rifle. At the same time, the surplus market looked completely different. AK-47 part kits were incredibly cheap. People weren't just buying rifles, they were building them. But then you could buy part kits for prices that seemed unbelievable today. Romanian kits, polished kits, all kinds of surplus parts coming into the country. But building those rifles wasn't easy. Today you can buy jigs and machines that do most of the hard work for you. Back then, if you wanted to build an AK, you were in the garage with a torch, pressing trunnions, hammering rivets with homemade tools. Some people were welding torch-cut receivers, others were rebuilding things like grease guns. Home builds weren't just a hobby, they were real gunsmithing projects. Another thing that looked very different was optics. Optics absolutely existed back then, but the way we mount them today didn't. The standardized 1913 Picatinny rail eventually changed everything, but during much of this era, it either didn't exist yet or it simply wasn't common on civilian rifles. There wasn't a universal system where you could just throw an optic on any rifle. If you wanted a scope, you had to find the exact mount made for that rifle with the right ring size for that spec scope. And if you were dealing with something like an AR-15 with a fixed carrying handle, mounting optics was awkward at best. Because of that, optics mostly lived on bolt actions, hunting rifles, or precision guns. Most fighting rifles were still running iron sights. Most shotguns had wood stocks at a little brass bead at the end of the barrel. That was the sight. No optics, no rails, no fancy steps, just a bead sight and practice. People weren't debating optic height over bore because there weren't optics mounted on everything like there are today. Ammunition changed too. There was a time when truly accurate ammunition was extremely expensive. If you wanted serious precision, you usually had to reload your own ammunition. Factory ammo capable of real precision performance was rare and expensive. Then there's companies like Hornady started pushing high-quality ammunition into the mainstream market. They figured out how to mass produce extreme accurate ammunition and sell it at a price regular shooters could afford. Suddenly, shooters were getting performance that used to require hand loading. Another big shift happened with the AR-15 itself. Today, the AR-15 has a reputation for reliability, but that wasn't always the case. For years, the rifle had a reputation for being unreliable. And a lot of that had nothing to do with the rifle. It was the magazines, cheap aftermarket magazines, worn out surplus mags, weak springs, followers that would tilt and jam. People blamed the rifle when the real problem was usually the magazine. Then in the mid 2000s, things started to change. Anti-tilt followers started appearing, magazine springs improved, and around 2007, the PMAG hit the market. Suddenly, magazines just worked. Once the magazines became reliable, the rifles did too. There's another thing people forget about that era. During this period of time, things like bump stocks didn't exist. Binary triggers didn't exist. 4 reset triggers didn't exist. The idea that a semi-automatic rifle could mechanically increase its rate of fire, like that wasn't something people were talking about in gun shops. In fact, if you had walked into a gun store back then and started explaining a concept like that, there's a pretty good chance someone would have called like the ATF. Not because gun owners supported that kind of enforcement, but because the culture around firearms was so completely different. Back then, people were still living in the shadow of assault weapons ban, and the idea of pushing the boundaries of what a semi-automatic rifle could do wasn't something most of the industry or most gun owners were comfortable with. Another thing that changed was the gun industry itself. For a long time, many gun manufacturers weren't focused on civilian shooters. They were chasing government contracts, military contracts, police contracts. Civilians were often treated like an afterthought. Some companies even engraved things like military or law enforcement use only right on the firearms itself, as if the people buying them weren't supposed to have them. That idea sounds ridiculous today, because today the civilian market is the largest firearms market in the world. You can even see it in the budget firearms. Years ago, if someone wanted an affordable handgun, their options were limited. Something like a high point, heavy, ugly, but affordable. Today, the entire level market looks completely different. You have modern striker-fired pistols like the Taurus G2C that regular people can afford. The quality of budget firearms today is dramatically higher than it used to be. There were also things that used to be incredibly common that people almost never see anymore. Rifles like SKS, stacked in crates at gun shows, surplus ammunition coming in by crate, and of course the Tactical Furniture era. The generation of shooters saw a completely different firearms market than what exists today. A lot of those shooters are what we might call analog shooters. They grew up before everything had electronics in it, before every rifle had optics, before every accessory had a battery, so they tend to have a certain level of distrust, not just the government, but of technology too, which I don't blame them. Because back then, a lot of new technology that came out failed, but they still believe in backups. Backup iron sights, simple mechanical system, equipment that works even if the battery dies. That doesn't mean they reject modern technology. Many of them run red dots today. They use modern optics, they use modern gear, but they see technology as a enhancement, not a replacement for skill, because they remember a time when none of that technology existed. And the only thing you could rely was on your ability and your equipment. That's why there's the analog bridge shooters. They're the bridge between two gun worlds. One that tried to make the Second Amendment second-class right, and one that is slowly rediscovering what shall not be infringed actually means. And because they lived through both, they know exactly how quickly things can go wrong and how important it is to make sure they don't. But all right, let me know your thoughts below, and if you guys were in that era, I'm curious to know. And if you want to continue to support the channel, again, the best way to do that is by shopping at onlytacticalfans.myshopify.com. And there's other links below, like Amazon, and even when you click on that link for Amazon and don't buy what's on there, we still get a kickback because you clicked on that link. And we've got like gear, appeals, survival equipment, and so much stuff over there. Anyways, every order helps keep the channel alive. We're incredibly grateful for you guys. You guys are extremely loyal and just dedicated, for real. You guys have been through everything, and we appreciate that. And until next video, peace. All right, welcome back to There Is No America Without Erica, because we all need a little Erica in our lives. Come on now. You bitch fucker. You cunt bag. You're fucking such a cunt bag. All right, welcome back to There Is No Erica Without America, or is it Erica Without America? Welcome back to America. What? No, it's there is no, welcome back to there. Okay. Like to call the, I like to call them one, why? Why? Before we get, oh shit. I see. I see. They Tronians. Tronians. Sounds like onions. Tronians. Ugh. Tronians. 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 The standard. The shotguns weren't, and a little brass bed. Is that bead? Is that bed? Bead. It's bead. The magazines, followers that would tilt the jam. And around like 2007, that PMG, were limited. There were also things that used to be incredibly. There were also things. Fuck. Mosin Nagins. What the fuck is that word? Like, for real, why are we not putting simpler words and shit? Nagins. I'm saying naggins. Matthew, what the fuck are these words? Topco furniture. Topco. Mosin Nagins selling for less than a tank of gas. I'm fucking done. I'm done. Because they remember a long time. Whoa.